Welcome back to the program. James Morrow here at the desk, as always, with Rowan Dean and Rita Panahy. There's been a new development in the saga of Joe Biden's disgraceful performance at the 80th anniversary commemorations of D-Day last week, which I want to tell you about today. That's right. Along with all the bizarre behaviors that he exhibited, it looks like Joe Biden, or rather his advisors, decided to all but rip off whole hunks of a speech given 40 years ago at Pointe du Hoc, Normandy, by another far more successful president, Ronald Reagan. At commemorations of the 40th anniversary of D-Day 40 years ago, American broadcaster Clay Travis compared the two speeches, and, well, you be the judge.
At last the hour had come. Dawn, 6th of June, 1944.
At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944,
225 American Rangers arrived by ship, jumped into the waves and stormed the beach.
225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs.
Gunfire rained above them, but still they kept coming. Nazi grenades thrown from above exploded against the cliffs, but still they kept coming.
The Rangers looked up and saw the enemy soldiers at the edge of the cliffs shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades. And the American Rangers began to climb.
They launched their ladders, their ropes, and grappling hooks, and they began to climb.
They shot rope ladders over the face of these cliffs and began to pull themselves up.
When the Nazis cut their ladders, the Rangers used the ropes. When the Nazis cut their ropes, the Rangers used their hands.
When one Ranger fell, another would take his place. When one rope was cut, a Ranger would grab another and begin his climb again.
And inch by inch, foot by foot, yard by yard, the Rangers literally clawed their way up this mighty precipice until at last they reached the top.
Soon, one by one, the Rangers pulled themselves over the top.
They breached Hitler's Atlantic Wall, and they turned in that one effort the tide of the war that began to save the world.
And in seizing the firm land at the top of these cliffs, they began to seize back the continent of Europe.
Wow. Well, you can almost imagine the thinking in the White House there. I mean, hey, Ronald Reagan, he was old. He won 49 states going into his second term with 59% of the popular vote. I got an idea. Let's rip off his speeches. Hey, just crazy enough to work. And I got to say, great work and well done to all involved. But, of course, at that point in his presidency, Reagan was still vigorous. And also, his policies were popular, and his economy was booming for everyone, not just Wall Street. That said, there were plenty of differences also between the two speeches. For example, Ronald Reagan's speech at Pointe du Hoc was imbued with a deep American spirituality.
Something else helped the men of D-Day. Their rock-hard belief that Providence would have a great hand in the events that would unfold here, that God was an ally in this great cause. And so, the night before the invasion, when Colonel Wolverton asked his parachute troops to kneel with him in prayer, he told them, "Do not bow your heads, but look up so you can see God and ask his blessing in what we're about to do."
Wow. While Joe Biden his speech suggested a sort of American creed that could have been taken from a fortune cookie or maybe an inspirational page-a-day calendar.
American democracy asks the hardest of things, to believe that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. So democracy begins with each of us. It begins when one person decides there's something more important than themselves. When they decide the person they're serving alongside of is someone to look after. When they decide the mission matters more than their life. When they decide that their country matters more than they do.
Sure, I mean, look, that's all lovely, but, you know, that's not the unique essence of the American or the Western democratic experiment. The whole reason back in 1944 our boys were fighting on D-Day was because a bunch of other guys on the other side had also decided to fight for something bigger than themselves. That thing, of course, was evil. It was Nazism. It was fascism. But still, that was a big problem. And Biden also had this to say. And, well, I think it was a bit of a veiled hit at you-know-who. It was also, I think, a bit of a tell on himself.
We often talk about the ideals of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. What we don't talk about is how hard it is. How many ways we're asked to walk away, how many instincts are to walk away. The most natural instinct is to walk away, to be selfish, to force our will upon others, to seize power, never give up.
Talking about being selfish and people seizing power and trying not to give it up. Well, I know Trump or Biden or his writers think that he's talking about Trump there, and that's fine, but that's also quite the statement to come from a guy, Joe Biden, who is both holding on to power, holding on to the White House, despite increasing an obvious frailty, and who's clearly using his Justice Department undemocratically, along with the American democratic legal system, to try and jail his opposition, or at least knock it out of the race. And when it comes to walking away, well, I think we know who's the expert around here.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.